Chronicles. I'm James Lynch. He is Kevin Mubenga. Kevin, how you been, man? We got a busy week. We got a lot to talk about today.
Oh man, it's been a crazy week for us this week. But yeah, it's all good. All good stuff. Everything's beautiful. Life is great.
Same here. Let's get into it. Normally we start with MMA, but today we'll talk about boxing. A lot of interesting stuff happening. This Deontay Wilder thing just will not go away. Now it's Mark Breland, his war of words. Just some of the stuff that you saw from Breland just going after Wilder and everything. I mean, just your reaction to it. This thing will not go away.
I mean, I've known Deontay Wilder for about 5-6 years now. I've known we've met 5-6 years ago. We've done numerous interviews together. I've been to his fights before, and I never saw this coming. I never thought that he would take this loss like this. It's really sad to see it because he still has, he has a lot of fight left in him, and there's a lot of guys he could beat in this, and that he will beat and could beat in this world. And it's just, I hate to see this happen between a trainer and a fighter, because those relationships are very sacred relationships, and to see it play out like this in the public and the things that are being said, I mean, it's really sad to see, because Brilliant's he's a good trainer, and he was
well
a great
respected
fighter
too, right?
Well
I mean, that's the
respected.
other thing, right? So it's like when he's saying this stuff, it's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like an MMA equivalent of someone who's just like, it's just gone so far downhill since losing a fight. Maybe TJ Dillashaw is a good example, actually. I don't know.
Yeah, the Dillashaw and Cody thing.
Yeah.
Who else? John Jones and Rashad back in the
Yeah.
days. So we've seen this. As a matter of fact, it's playing out right now. Gilbert Burns and Usman, right? So, but nothing this nasty with guys saying, he spiked my drink or my water, or all types of just really bad things are being said. And I'm gonna side with Brilliant on this one. I'm gonna side with Mark on this one. The reason is because I've never questioned his character, and neither have I questioned Wilder's character up until the loss. And then how he started behaving after, look, man, it's the fight business. You're gonna win, you're gonna lose, but you could fight another day, and all of this shit that he's doing is not, I mean, he's entitled to his opinion. He's his own man, and it's his own life, and he can do whatever he wants. But at the end of the day, you still have to have some type of character. And if you really feel like that, and you can't say that you lost because of your own self, then you have some soul searching to do, So that's just what it is.
And Eddie Hearn chimed in on this, and I'll get to his comments here in a second. But like, how does this affect his career going forward, Wilder? Because this is almost getting to the territory of like, I don't even want to deal with this guy. Are you getting that sense as well?
I feel bad. I feel terrible. It makes me. I feel sad for him. More than anything else. And I shouldn't be feeling like this. But this is what this whole thing makes me feel like. And from the day, I mean, we were at the fight. We were at the press conference for the first fight, second fight, and his energy, his attitude, the way he walked into it was like, okay, even if he loses, I still feel like he could come back and they'll fight again, which happened the second time. And then I thought, even after this loss, I felt like he's going to get up, come back and fight. But since the day of that fight, after that fight, so many excuses have been said, and it's just like, bro, like, and then they try to say Tyson Fury's gloves were loaded. I mean, I find that hard to believe. The reason why I find that hard to believe is because the process in which, first of all, Nevada does their if anybody, okay, so a lot of people haven't been backstage, don't even know how this thing works. Okay, the trainer of the opponent comes to the dressing room, and he checks. He stands there along with the commission, stand there over you while you're getting your hands taped. Okay, so as your trainer's taping your hands, the opposite guy's trainer is watching your hands get taped, and the commission's watching your hands get taped. That's the first thing. Second thing, the gloves for the fight is not in your possession at that particular point in time. Those are given to the commission, and the commission then gives it back to you, sealed. And it's sealed. It's in a bag or it's in a thing. So it hasn't been tampered, hasn't been touched. So they watch you open this bag up, and they watch you put the gloves on. Then you tape the gloves. And once you tape the gloves, you see that little X you guys see on the thing of the fighter? That's the signature of the state commission that's signing off on that. So if somebody takes that off before from that locker room to the ring, you'll see it. So it's very hard to pull this one off and say Buddy's arms were, because then how did he do it? When did he do it? You know, how? You know, somebody needs to explain. So I don't know. Maybe there's some tricks, some gypsy tricks we don't know about that Tyson Fury and them know. Maybe they could tell us. But as far as I could see, I don't think the guy's hands were loaded. I don't think his drink was spiked. I don't think Breland did a bad job stopping the fight. I think it all was fair and even, and he lost fair and square. And he's how you know, it's all about how you act when you lose, you know. And we saw how he's acting when he loses, so it's pretty sad.
And it's not even just the rapping thing. The remember is you talking about his outfit he wore to the cage, which he chose to wear, and you know somehow that's an issue too. So it's like it's not just this one thing. It's a combination of things. And I think this is an easy way to get the fans to not like you is to talk about a loss like this and just over and over again. So it's and like I mentioned, Eddie Hearn chimed in on this. I don't know if I should do my UK accent here, but he goes, he's completely lost his mind. He's completely lost his mind. When you start talking to yourself in the third person, let me tell you what kings do. What are you talking about? You're not a king. You got beat. Not bad, huh?
Hey, I'm gonna send that to Eddie, man. I'll say, Eddie, look at Lynch's impersonation of you.
I did my best there, but he's right. I mean, this is not the talk of a like Conor McGregor's had some excuses. Don't get me wrong, but not to this extent. You know what I mean? When he's losing fights, I mean, some of the stuff's ridiculous. Maybe he's not a good example, but there's been a lot of fighters when they've lost fights, they take it on the chin. I'll readjust. I'll get back, and that's all he had to say. I mean, even if all this was true, show it in another fight. You know what I mean? Like show that you're good enough. So
James, this is the fight business. You're gonna lose, you're gonna win, but you can continue your career. I mean, all of these great fighters have all lost before. A lot of guys, and it's a handful of guys have won the whole career without losing. But that doesn't mean he's better or greater than somebody else. It's just guys are going to lose, come back, win, and it's just all part of the game. So, you got to accept it and move forward and go get your revenge. The best thing he should be thinking about is, I got to get that back.
Exactly.
That's what he should be thinking, and that's what his life work should be right now, to get that back. And he's not acting like it. So it's pretty sad to see that happen and unfold in front of all of our eyes.
If you guys want to read the full statement from Breland, Michael Benson has it up on his Twitter account, full graphic up there. You guys can read everything. I won't go through the whole thing. It would probably take forever to just read through it, but you sort of see some of the comments there and just kind of, it's some really revealing stuff, and just stuff like you said, we shouldn't be hearing in public, but we are because it's got to this point, right? So
yeah,
what are you going to do?
It's terrible.
Speaking of terrible, not greatest segue there, but Leon Spinks, obviously, unfortunate news with his passing this week.
Oh man.
You're a big boxing guy, Kev. Some of your best Leon Spinks memories. I mean, this is one of the greatest of all time, and in terms of fighters in the boxing ring.
Yeah, man. Him and his brother through the amateurs were coming up, and they were considered the top prospects. I believe they went to the Olympics. Both brothers went to the Olympics, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, both of them have a gold medal. Yeah, I think the one that died is part of the greatest Olympic team ever, combined with I think it was Evander Holyfield and who else is on that team? There's about 5 or 6 guys who were basically Hall of Fame level. I mean, Pernell Whitaker. Taylor, I can't remember what his name is. He's part of that team. So it was it was a pretty good team. And honestly, Leon Spinks became the world champion at I believe 9-0 or 11-0 or something, and it was very early in his career, but he was ready for it. And even though he beat an older Muhammad Ali, which really what catapulted him into the mainstream media. He still had a very good career. It could have been longer, but just a lot of damages he took, and you saw it after his career. So, but from amateurs to pro, he had he's one of those guys that had a full career. And that's right. Yeah. He was 7-0 with a draw when he beat Ali in '78. But that was an old Ali, and yeah, man. So rest in peace to him. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and his kids and wife and so on and so forth, man, because his health was already deteriorating. And in the last 4 or 5 years, I don't know if you've ever seen him late, last one, but it was going down. And man, we gotta protect our fighters and our legends and try to see how we can somehow, some way, help them benefit from their careers past, because we're living in a time now, James, where even when you retire, you could still make something out of yourself, and you can have so many different opportunities. These guys that fought in the 70s, 60s, 80s,
no plan after the fight. You know,
yeah,
you're so right about that. Yeah.
yeah. So we got to do something that helps those legends, because a lot of these guys are the reason why a lot of the guys fighting now are fighting. You know, and then we have to cherish our legends, man. This sport is built on history, and the history is very important. So there's no reason for a guy like, you know, Spinks to be, you know, out of the fight game and you know, not being taken care of, you know. So that's just my personal opinion on that. So whichever way that needs to happen, it needs to happen. You know?
And I think at a time like this, and I'm glad you brought up the post-career stuff, because we're seeing in the UFC now. Spencer Fisher, they had a story about him on MMA Fighting a couple of weeks ago about just, you know, some of the health stuff he's dealing with. I mean, it is a conversation we're going to have more on, but kind of what I was going to say as well is, you know, when stuff like this happens, I recommend people go back and watch the old fights. You know, Leon Spinks last fought in December of 1995. That's ages ago, right? So there were some good fights there. Go back, watch, celebrate the history a little bit, and you know. Again, when something like this happens, it's a good reminder to just go back and watch those old fights and see how different the times were than they are today. You know, it's a lot different, right? So
yeah, and I misquoted myself. It was actually the 60 something team that that Leon was a part of with his brother Michael, and it was with Sugar Ray Leonard. And that was that Olympic team is the team the brothers were a part of, not the team with it was 76. It was a 76 team, correct. Thank you, Taylor, for that. Yeah.
There we go. That's we got producer Taylor working magic behind the scenes. Switching gears here, Lomachenko. You know, we obviously got to bring him up. He's one of the big stars in boxing. Lost to Lopez last year. You know, where is his pound for pound status in your eyes at this point? Because that is one of the questions sort of heading into this year.
He should still be in the top 10.
I agree.
He should still be in the top 10. I mean, maybe in the back end of the top 10, because he should have an opportunity to redeem himself, you know, after that loss. And you understand, this is his second loss too. The first loss was his second fight, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, and he redeemed himself and then went on to win 3 different weight divisions, you know. So give him a chance to redeem himself. I think he's still in the mix. It's not even a question. I mean, you know what's so crazy about fighting, James? It's like one day you could be like at the top, right? And everybody is like talking about you, and everybody said you're the greatest of all time. I mean, people were saying that Vasily Lomachenko was considered one of the greatest fighters of all time in the history of fighting or boxing. And all of a sudden, the guy gets a loss, and it's like nobody's talking about him anymore. You know? But he was just the greatest of all time. I've seen this happen with Demetrius Johnson. I've seen this happen with Chocolatito. I've seen this happen so many times where guys are like, yeah, he's pound for pound, number 1, number 2, one of the greatest at his weight. And then a guy loses a one fight, and it's like boxing, and they're so fickle. They're very fickle when you lose. So, but fighters got to stay the course because it's a long career, and you could always redeem yourself. So, yeah. But where does he go from here? Where do you think he should go from here?
Well, that's just it. I think, I mean, it's a tough thing. Do you give him a fight that's going to kind of redeem himself and get back in that spot, or do you give him a fight that you know he's going to win just to keep active and maybe get the confidence back? I don't know. It's a tough call. I mean, you're sort of around these fighters a little bit more than I am in that regard. What do you think? What do you think? I'll throw it back to you. What do you think is the best move for him?
I think that there's 5 guys in the division who are the main 5 guys in the division. Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Lopez, Teofimo Lopez, and Lomachenko. Those are the 5 main guys in the division. Mm-hmm. So, with that being said, Lopez has a mandatory that's coming up for the IBF, so he has to defend that. Devin has a mandatory with Ryan, but Ryan's not going to take that mandatory like we've discussed before. So he's gonna. Oh, I'm hearing. A little.
Yeah, I was gonna. I know what you're gonna say. It was the same thing I was thinking of because we haven't talked since then. It looks like that fight's off, right?
Well, that Pacquiao fight is off. According to it was just a bunch of talk. But listen to this though. I heard something even better than that.
Let's hear it.
Because that was all bullshit exhibition. Blah blah blah. I'm hearing that Jorge Linares will fight Devin Haney possibly. I just heard this, and this is what I wanted for Ryan. I wanted Ryan to fight Linares to get a high-level guy, credible guy on his record, like a Luke Campbell, but he ended up getting Luke Campbell. This is an equivalent, probably a level higher than Luke Campbell. I would say probably 1 level higher because he did beat Luke Campbell. So Jorge Linares is a 3-division world champion or 2-division world champion. And yeah, man. So I really like this fight for Devin because you're getting a guy who's sitting there in the prime. And yeah, man.
Good matchmaking there. I agree. Yeah.
Javante is gonna fight soon too. I don't know who, but they're all in the mix, right? So I think if Lopez fights a guy in the top 10, you know, and then goes right after one of those belts after that, because everybody has mandatories and everybody's busy, and he's not gonna get the rematch right away. So he gotta string off a win or two to get that title shot back again, and I think he'll do it.
Some other fights that are coming up here soon: Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders. You've got Taylor and Ramirez. They were both, I believe, on the same card. It's now been split up. Do you like that move, or would you think they should have kept it on the same date?
It's hard to say, man, because all right, two things. First thing is that is a unification bout, right? So you got all 4 belts on the line. They got all 4 belts on the line. So it does deserve its own special day to happen. And now now the cards is on 2 different nights, so it allows us to give more attention to each guy. So yeah, it's deserving. You know, they should have their own night because it's for the undisputed 140-pound championship of the world. All 4 belts. You rarely see all 4 belts on the line all the time, and this is one of those nights where you'll see all 4. So there'll be one true champion in that division, and they should have their own night, you know. So I'm happy for that.
I agree with it as well. And just to clarify, not the same card. They were on the same night. So obviously you want to spread the wealth a little bit. We're not seeing a ton of big boxing fights booked, at least right now where we're, recording this today. So I think the more you can spread it out, the better. Give people to, get that anticipation a little bit. And the worst thing as a fight fan is having to flip back and forth between, 2 events. We're already dealing with it a lot of times with the UFC. So it'd be nice if they could, split these up a little bit more. That's what I think. So
I do that all the time. I'll have 3 TVs going on. I'll be watching the UFC here.
You don't do the spoiler thing. You won't leave one off and then watch it later. Sometimes I'll do that.
Like, I got to see all 3 at the same time.
Okay, yeah, you got it made. That's important.
I love it.
We talked about Ryan Garcia earlier. Interesting comments here by his trainer here, Eddie Reynoso, saying, "I really don't like that fight. Manny Pacquiao has all that experience. It's a fight at a heavier weight, but it's my job to prepare him for fights that he and his team accept. The fight I like more is Davis." And that was the end of the quote. What do you think of
that? So, I mean, I feel like we talk about Ryan every week, though. I know. I feel like we do.
We got it.
Yeah, he's a big deal. I mean, he's a big deal. But Eddie's a smart guy, and he knows what he's seeing, and he knows what's what. And the odds are stacked against a guy like Ryan when it comes to fighting a guy like Pacquiao because of the weight, because of the experience, and because he's a lefty. And everything's just in Pacquiao's favor other than the age. He's 20 years older than this guy. Ryan Garcia is the same age as Manny Pacquiao's first son. Let that sink in.
That's crazy.
They're probably like a year or 2 apart, but they're probably the same age, So Eddie is going to do what's best for his fighter, and I believe that Eddie knows that his fighter needs more time to be able to fight those type of caliber guys. And even Davis, I don't think they're going to fight Davis right away. I don't even think that's going to happen for the next 2 years, honestly. And that's how much time I think he needs. Because remember, he's still only 22 or 23 or whatever. Why not fight the guy when you're 25 or 26, when you're more, seasoned and ready? There's flaws in your game that we could all see, and I don't like it. I don't like it. So he's good, but there's just very evident flaws that if I see, I know Eddie for sure sees. I know all the other fighters are seeing, and Javante is not a guy to just walk in there and play with, and Manny Pacquiao is not a guy who you walk in there and just play with. So Eddie, I would go with whatever Eddie's saying. That's the best thing to go. Reynoso knows his boxing.
For sure.
No boxing, no life.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, and he's not just going to go out there and say it, and then everyone's going to pick up on it, and turn it into something if he didn't believe it, right? So it's not just, it's not just sort of fight talk. You know what I mean?
I'm starting to think that also Ryan is part of this. You got to understand, Ryan is part of this new generation of kids and of young people, and the same thing. Like you watch Jake and Logan do this online, where they start picking over here, picking over there, but really sometimes nothing comes out of it. It's just the clout and that energy that they create online. I feel like he's doing that too. I feel like he did that in the Mike Tyson interview, where he started talking like Ali. I think he gets a bit carried away, and I think that there's nobody around him other than Eddie, I would say, that could tell him no. But then also there's that language barrier. He doesn't speak Spanish, or somebody has to translate all the time. So but I think he's in heart of heart, he's a good kid, and he wants to be great. I think so. But I think the clout stuff also clouds his judgment. He just says things sometimes that he doesn't need to be saying. Like, oh, I'm going to fight you. But if you're going to say that, you got to fight that man. You're not just going to tell a man you're going to fight him and not fight him. If you're going to say that, you're going to fight that man. And if you know you're not ready to fight that man, then don't talk to that man like that. Wait another time. Push him to the side. We've seen guys do this all forever, So, yeah.
There's a lot of MMA stuff we got to get into, unless there's any more boxing stuff you want to talk to. But Nate Diaz, we got to talk about the interview with Ariel. I thought Nate came across really well. The thing that surprised me, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, is Charles Oliveira. That was one name I did not expect to hear, because it's a business. We talked about Oliveira's marketability. Were you surprised when he said that? I know you talk to him all the time, but what was sort of your reaction to that name coming up? I give Nate credit. It's a dangerous fight.
Not surprised at all. Nate likes guys that are coming off of wins, and he likes guys who fight, not stall. Right? They actually fight. Because look, there's ways you can win the fight. There's different ways to win a fight. Right? You can score points and win a fight. I know guys that do that. I've seen guys do that. There's that style of fighting, and there's guys who stall. There's guys who just take it to the ground and stall it there. But Charles doesn't do that. Charles fights. He's a fighter. He's a real fighter. So, and he has a good style, so it's going to be an entertaining fight no matter what. And I remember that thing I talked to you about, carrying a pay-per-view. Chandler and Charles can't carry pay-per-views. I don't think Dustin can carry the pay-per-view, but, and take a guy like Charles and carry that pay-per-view, right? Or take a guy like Chandler and carry that pay-per-view. I don't think he could do that. But Nate can. Nate can carry Charles. Nate can carry Charles in the pay-per-view and sell it out just fine, So he knew that. And this is what I was saying when I was talking on here a few weeks back when we had our last podcast. Guys got to be able to carry. If a guy doesn't have a name, it doesn't make sense to make a fight with that guy unless you could carry it, or else you just won't be able to sell it, And once you have two guys who can't carry something, you're gonna put them. Where they go? They go on cable. Fight night Saturday or whatever.
Prelims, yeah. Well, not prelims, but you know what I mean. They're going to be on free TV as opposed to a pay-per-view. You need a strong name for a pay-per-view.
Correct. You need strong names to be able to sell the pay-per-view, and that's just what it is. And Nate knows. But again, like I tell you guys, and all of this media people, man, they always ask me, and it's so funny because I'm a media guy because of Fanatics with my brother and us. But I'm still a manager first, and I'm still a fight guy first, and I always want to do an interview. Always want to do interviews with my guys, or my guys that I work with or I'm with, and the Diazes don't do interviews for a reason, because when they come out and speak, they speak loud and it's volume, and what they mean, what they say, they mean, and then they drop the mic and walk out, and you ain't gonna hear again from them for a little minute. And because all these fighters just want to talk, and just say a bunch of shit, and just talk, and say a whole bunch of nothing, and it doesn't hold weight. But when Nick and Nate talk, it holds weight. You feel how heavy that is yesterday. You know what I mean? And that's just the truth. And I know that. And they've set up their life and career like that, and they're not gonna get out of that. And it was brilliant. It was well done. We were supposed to do that last week. Yeah, we were supposed to do that last week. Well, but the training was just too severe that week, and it was like he was doing 3 a days, man. I mean, that motherfucker was doing 3 a days, bro. Just no, Nate was in there doing 3 a days. We trained 3 times a day, every day, and yeah, it was hard, man. It was hard. There was no time to do the interview, but he found some time this week and was able to say what he needed to say. And people online always want to make different fights, the fights are going to make themselves.
Yeah.
Just you got to give it time and allow things to do what it does. And Nate does that. People think these guys are dumb. These guys are so much smarter than the rest of these guys. These guys are these fighters are jocks. These guys are smart. They are way ahead of them, and that's what it is. You know. What did you think about? Hold on. What did you think about the interview?
I thought it was good. I did find it like I said, I was a little bit surprised with the Oliveira thing, only because Nate's obviously wants to make as much money as he can. I would think that fighting a McGregor or even a Poirier, I think, would hold more weight than Oliveira at this point, just even from a marketing standpoint. You know what I mean? I know Oliveira's a game guy, but
there's two guys, right? So there's Dustin, like I told you, right?
Yeah.
There's Dustin, that's there, and then there's Charles. So you have two options. You give me one of these two guys. Or give Dustin preferably, because we already have that history going on. But go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, why is Jorge not an option?
Because
we'll talk about him because
Jorge was coming off of that loss.
That's true. Usman. I get. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so he doesn't really like a guy coming off of a loss and then fighting that guy after that. He would rather fight a guy that won. And it makes perfect sense. He wants to fight the winners. But the line that really stuck out to me in that interview, he said in that interview, he said, I would rather, he goes, all of you guys get finished. You guys get stopped.
I know that line.
You guys get choked out. He said, you guys get stopped. You guys get choked out. And you guys always want to talk about my record and say all this shit about my record. He goes, I'd rather have 100 losses like mine than one of yours. I said, oh shit. that hit home to a lot of fighters, because you're not gonna finish him. And in the art of war, these guys are martial artists. They're like these guys could have existed 1,000 years ago with Genghis Khan, 5,000 years ago. These guys are like that. They're cut like that, and it's kill or be killed. So a kill is considered a knockout or a choke or unconscious or whatever. And if you don't do that to me, then you're doing all of this touch and go and kick and move and you're really just trying to get away with the win. But we know one-on-one I'll kill you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how they look at it. It's the art of war, and that matters to them. That's a loss to them. The way Conor got handled, he got stopped and the fight was over and he was on his face on the ground. What do you say to that? You got that. That's a loss, and every time he loses, it's the same thing. So that line really stuck out to me, and I felt that it was really heavy.
Well, and you're right. Like, you look at Nate's losses, they are, for the most part, they pretty much are all decision losses. Although technically, if we're going to get a little stickler here, because I know some people mention it, Josh Thompson did finish him. I know it was a towel throw in, but he still beat him.
Yeah. And just like the same,
it doesn't matter. Most fans don't even remember that fight.
No, they're not going to remember that. But even like the Jorge thing, right? The doctor.
Well, that was a doctor. See, I could see him getting away with that because, again, the doctor came in and stopped it. It wasn't necessarily he wanted to continue to fight. It was the doctor who made the call, and they probably could have let it go. It was fine.
Yeah. So this is the fight business. All these things happen and it takes place. So it is what it is. But everybody's been put on notice. So there's really nothing else to talk about other than, with the rest of these guys, because everybody knows what time it is. So it's up to you and your team, Dustin, and you and your team, Charles, and for the UFC to make it make sense. And again, we talked about this. Me and you talked about this about a week or two ago.
Yeah.
What does a belt mean? What does a belt really mean? And honestly, the belt only means something if the person who's wearing it means something. If just another guy is wearing it, it really means nothing. And think about it. Like, I always go back to the time when Woodley had the belt, right? And he was going on that 3-4 year run that he was on, and the UFC really hated having him as the champion. And we kind of all knew this, right? You knew it, I knew. The whole world kind of knew the UFC didn't like Tyron Woodley as a champion because he was a quote unquote boring champion. But they started pushing for Till to get that title. So Till sat at 7, Kamaru sat at 7, right? They were both ranked number 7 in the world. What made them decide to push Till in front of Usman was the fact that they would have rather Till be the champion because he's more popular and cooler and he has a whole country backing him than to have Usman, who has a whole continent backing him, but he's not as cool or popular as Till was at that time. So the character of Till pushed him over Usman to get the title shot first, but you pushed him too far too soon, and he was not ready, and he was never going to be a champion at that point. So you pushed the guy ahead of a guy who did not deserve a shot over Usman, realistically, if we're going to be honest, and you saw it fell right in his face. It's like, oh fuck, now we got to hand off the welterweight title to from Woodley to Usman, to where they consider those two guys not to be the most entertaining or popular guys. So now you're going on a welterweight run where it's not really, it's not really like.
And they weren't even the main event of that card. I think it was Jones and Anthony Smith was the main event, which the poster back here, if you can't see it, but that's only how I remember that. And I was at that fight. But yeah, you're right. Like you can clearly see what the UFC is trying to do. It's
it's right in your face.
It's not on merit, right? It's on entertainment and fanfare. But here, I did want to touch on this because this is sort of the last thing I want to mention about Oliveira. So Oliveira's come out and I don't know if it's him or his team, but they've said we only want to fight for a belt. I don't know if he's going to waive that whole thing just to fight Nate. Whereas like someone like Dustin, I know Dustin doesn't care about the belt. He's already pretty much said it. Like he's just in for the big fight. So I almost feel like Dustin would be a more likely fight for Nate than Charles, just because Charles seems very fixated on the belt. What's your read on that?
Yeah. Whatever's clever, brother. Whatever makes you sleep at night and whatever floats your boat and whatever you guys think is best for your career, then you do it. Belts are important. Belt significance, it has a significant meaning because it says that you are the best in your division at your weight class because you've reached the mountaintop. The belt is essentially reaching the mountaintop of your profession, but that doesn't guarantee you to be a star, and it doesn't guarantee you to make a lot of more money, because when you become a champion, most guys think when they become a champion, then they become popular, and now the big opportunities present themselves, which they do, but there's levels to this shit, my guy. And you don't have enough of the personality to be the guy. You don't have enough to be that guy. So even with the belt around your waist, it really don't mean nothing. You're just another guy, honestly. And again, I like Oliveira, but you're just another guy. These guys come and they go, bro. In history, and when history tells it all, you're telling me that. Some of these guys who have more wins, who have less losses than Nate, when history's told, we look at fighting 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now. You think some of these guys are going to be remembered, more than Nathan is? Nathan is stamped, like history stamped. He's a legend. He's a living legend. And that goes for any guys like that, So I would rather get a win like that than fight a guy for a belt. It's like, do you fight Manny Pacquiao, or do you fight, whoever the current champion is at your weight?
Yeah, it's about there's the entertainment side of it, 100%.
What would most fighters pick? They'd pick to fight Manny Pacquiao.
Of course, yeah.
Because it's just bigger, it's better, it's more money. But you got another guy here who's a world champion that you can fight. Why don't you fight the world champion over here? Because it's not the same. You see what I'm saying? It's not the same, bro. So that's what it is, man. And to each his own, bro. But Dustin is smartening up. You see what I'm saying? Dustin's like, he's following the lead. He's seeing he's picking up what's being laid down. You know what I'm saying? But it's taken him a while to come around to this, and we'll see what he does now. We'll see how he behaves. Because at first, when that fight was supposed to happen in New York with Dustin in it, he was still like, he still didn't get it. But I feel like he's starting to get it now. And it's like, this is how the game needs to be played, bro. And I hope he gets it. So we'll see how it all plays out.
It's going to be a domino effect. Yeah.
Either way. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's going to be a domino effect. Whatever, like if they book McGregor and Poirier, if they book whatever, like you're going to see all these other fights sort of come out. I mean, the timing of Nate doing the interview is perfect because I think they need to figure out what's next for Poirier and for Chandler and for all these guys. And then once they do that, you'll sort of see. I bet this is my guess is that once you see one fight booked, you're going to see a ton of others booked because it's going to take some fighters out of the equation, right?
Yeah, and these exceptions have been made numerous times in the history of fighting. Like, just because a guy fights at 155 pounds or fights at 170 pounds doesn't mean he can't fight at another weight, or doesn't mean he can't. Like, that doesn't matter. And don't try to be like, oh well, he has this turn and then it's his turn. No, bro. Bro. It's what needs to happen at that moment, in that moment, and what makes the most sense. That's what needs to happen, and what makes us the most money, and that's what needs to happen. So yeah, it is what it is.
I touched on it there. It looks like McGregor and Poirier are going to do the trilogy next. Do you think that's a mistake? Do you think McGregor should get another fight in between there? Or do you think, hey, cash in now and we'll just like, it doesn't matter? Because I don't know. I'm kind of mixed. I kind of understand it. I understand from Dustin's perspective, you make the most money fighting Conor McGregor, right? Or Nate Diaz. Those are the two big fights that he could take. But from Conor's perspective, you lose another fight. That's going to be what? 3 of 4 if he loses this next one. Three losses in his last 4 fights. Like that can't be good for business. So where do you stand on this? What do you think?
For Conor, I mean, he needs to. Again, I'm not part of his team, and I don't know what they're thinking and what they're doing and what their plans are. But in my honest opinion, he has some shit to figure out. I just feel like there's things to figure out. I just don't know what it is. It's not so much about opponent more than it is mindset and what's going on around me. You know, I feel like shit around him is just like the whole picture just ain't. It's not what it doesn't feel the same. Does it feel the same to you? It doesn't feel the same to me. Like something is off and something ain't right. And I think there's some figuring out that needs to happen with him. And that's another reason why also Nate just didn't even entertain. Like, why you
didn't even mention him, which I mean, I don't blame him. He's like, I only want people coming off wins. Why would you want to fight a guy who's coming off a knockout last? I get it.
You're beating a dead horse, you know? Why are you beating on a dead horse? It's like this guy already got his ass whooped like 3 times in the last like year and a half, 2 years. You know, let him fucking make some type of a run or something that makes sense, and then we can go from there. But again, he has some soul searching to do, man. Because for me, I don't think he wants to fight anymore. I think he's just going through the motions of being a fighter now and just doing what he's supposed to do. And yeah, man. And I hope that he comes through and, you know, finds some fucking light somewhere at the end of the tunnel and just comes through, and so that it can be, so now it can make sense. Because once we run through these guys that we're going to run through, then hopefully at the end of the year, you know, some point, you remember, homie said he's going to fight 2 to 4 times in a year. And that's for sure going to happen. You know, these people don't just say things. Nate and Nick don't just say things just to say shit, you know? So that means that there's 4 slots available, and you could be one of them. So get your shit right, and then we can run this. He said later on. You heard him say later on. You know, he said not right now, maybe later. So there's 4 in the chamber, and you could be one of them. So get your shit right, and then we can make a lot of money and go from there.
The name I mentioned in this whole talk that we haven't heard anything from is Jorge Masvidal, and I am so surprised that we haven't heard any news about him. I mean, it's been really weird since losing the title since he lost that title fight to Usman. Masvidal's kind of had a weird run, you know, going forward. And I don't want to get political here, but obviously, you know, he's a very big Trump supporter, and I know a lot of people sort of turned on him for that. And his manager also was probably tweeting from his account, and that's not helping matters either. But I mean, it seemed like the obvious fight was him and Colby, but I mean, I don't think the longer this goes, I don't think that fight happens. Masvidal had this huge, 2019 where he was the guy. I mean, everyone was talking about Masvidal, the whole fight with Nate Diaz, everything, the build up to it was huge. And I feel like a lot of that is gone because we barely heard from him. He's not doing much media. This Colby fight's not happening. By the way, I reached out to Colby this week. Normally, Colby's very good about getting back to me. He's kind of giving me the silent treatment, which means one of 2 things. I have 2 theories on this. Number 1, he doesn't want to do media, which is, could happen. He did that before the Woodley fight, did very limited media. Number 2 is, maybe they do have him booked against Masvidal. Maybe they're filming Tough soon, and maybe he doesn't want to say anything about that. That's my only thing. But with Masvidal, like, what's your take on this? Because I think he's kind of getting cold at this point.
Yeah, man. People have to understand what momentum means. Momentum is very important in this game, and it's what you do with the momentum, right? Again, let me paint this picture for you so you can understand, like, and people don't look at it like this because they don't see the bigger picture, but I'm in the business. I'm in business. So I know what I'm looking at, and I know what's happening. He starts off his 2018, end of 2019. He starts it off with the whole press thing that comes out with Jorge versus Nick. Mm-hmm. That went around. I watched that guy's Instagram grow by like 50, 60,000 in that week, when that went out. And we didn't even sign a contract to fight. We were in negotiation stage, and these guys, UFC pushed it out there and said, hey, I'm like, whoa. We didn't even agree yet. The money don't make sense. The rounds don't make sense. Let's get this shit right. You know what I mean? And they jumped the gun on it, and then that killed the whole thing, right? But that momentum he carried with him into the Till fight. it was Till, wasn't it? Who was first?
So
No, it was
Steve.
Steven.
Yeah. So he fought. So for going back on the years. So let's do a little timeline here, and we'll see if we can kind of match up what you're saying here. So it was beginning of 20. It was the end of 2018. Masvidal had been off for a year. He filmed that reality show. Right. He went away, grew the long hair, all that stuff. Became Street Judas, whatever. Came back, fought Darren Till. Knocked out Darren Till. That was huge because that was a fight I think he was an underdog in. Okay, so he finishes Till. Then he fights Ben Askren after that, gets the highlight reel, viral, KO of Askren, which was huge. He was on a big card too. That was another John Jones.
Hold on. Wasn't Stevens in there somewhere? Stephen Thompson's in there somewhere? Or am I tripping?
No, Stephen Thompson was before that. That was 2000. I think that was 2018 when he lost, and then he went away to do the reality show. So he was off for almost a year. I think the Masvidal fight with Thompson, it was either 2017 or it was early 2018. I'm going to look that up right now, but yeah, he sort of took some time off because there was a point when he lost to Wonderboy. It's like, okay, this guy's not going anywhere up in the weight class. So yeah, he lost to Thompson the end of 2017. So that was in November, and he fought Till in 2019. So he took all of 2018 off.
Yeah, so we started negotiation in November 2018 to fight him in March of. So we started late end of November, beginning of December. So once that fell through, they tried to make us fight in January. I was like, nah, we're not doing that. It's too close. And then we had to pick opponent. And honestly, he wasn't even on the list. And this is how these Diaz guys think. They watch, and then they see how you're doing, and then they see what kind of fighter you are. Like, okay, I'll fight that guy because that guy's a real fighter, right? Only real fighters are going to get a real chance to really fight, So, so he gets that momentum. He beats Till, carries that momentum from beating Till with a knockout, knocks out Askren. That's a lot of momentum. Now, after he beats Askren, Nate's like, okay, I'm going to fight that guy, right? Because he was already associated with us about a year ago. Now I'm going to fight this guy. After I beat Pettis, I'll fight this guy. So he calls him out after the fight, and then they fight each other. That momentum. So you're talking about a year straight of momentum this guy's carrying into his title fight, right?
Yeah.
Now you have pay-per-views being sold, right? With him and Nate, because the other two fights were pay-per-views, if I'm not mistaken. Askren wasn't a pay-per-view until he wasn't headlining.
No, he wasn't headlining it. You're right, but it was a pay-per-view with Askren.
Those were pay-per-view fights, but those were pay-per-view cards, but he wasn't headlining the cards.
No, he wasn't. No.
Yeah. So his first headline card is with him and Nate. Right, and all of these fights are happening all in 2019, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. No, they were. Nate, Askren, and Till were all 2019.
So look how much momentum that guy's. 3 fights in 1 year, and it's all really good name fights. And then he ends the year off with a big fight in New York, Madison Square Garden versus Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz. His fight gets stopped. He moves on to fight. And I'll tell you something else. You want to hear something else that's crazy?
Sure.
If Nate won that fight, that doctor never stopped that fight, and Nate won that fight, that BMF belt would have meant something right now.
Oh, I bet.
The reason why that belt doesn't mean anything is because of who has it. Same thing I keep telling you guys. That belt would have carried momentum, and then it would have turned into a whole different thing if that belt was around Nate's waist. But it went to Jorge, and then they just had to dead it because he doesn't have enough to carry that swag. You know what I'm saying? So you move forward to when he fights Usman, and he loses to Usman. Now all of the momentum dried up. Now, usually what happens when that happens is the guy that beats you takes all of your momentum and then propels himself higher. But that's not what happened in this case because Usman beat him. But what does that really mean? Like you just beat another guy. Now it felt like you just beat another guy. And then also Jorge went into this whole thing about, everything that he's been doing, trying to become a superstar. And I think it affected his stock. All of it affected his stock. If he would have just remained thorough and not be a part of everything that's going on outside of this fight shit and try to get into politics and all this extra shit, he would have been able to sustain himself, But it's hard to sustain yourself when you're wearing robes and sit in front of with robes with tequila bottles in your hand and then turning into fucking suits and Trump support at fucking rallies. I mean, these two don't add up. They don't mesh.
Yeah.
You see, they don't understand that. These people, fighters and people around them don't understand. People can see all of these things and they're taking all this information in and it doesn't make sense, and that's what happened. I feel like if he would just stay true to what he was and who he was or whatever act he was doing before, because I don't know which one is real no more, then I think he would have been all right. That loss wouldn't have hurt him as much. But now that loss feels like it's hurt him. And now where do they stand? you think you're a superstar because you sold X amount of pay-per-views. So now you're trying to get more money to fight Colby, and Colby thinks he deserves more money to fight you because you guys think this is the biggest fight the UFC can make. So now you have two guys with huge egos who gotta try to make sense, and then you got the guy with the biggest ego, Dana, sitting across. So it's like you got a triangle of egos that are really big, and that's why this fight's not being made right now. Honestly, I think it's the money and the egos, and then guys really thinking they're bigger than what they are, and they want more money for it. So you're gonna have this dead still for a while until somebody breaks in. One of them eventually just folds and takes that $500,000 that they're supposed to get paid to walk in, and then they go from there.
Yeah, we'll see. It's I completely agree with you about Masvidal. Something's got to give at some point because he's just killing his momentum right now.
You know what happened to Lynch? I forgot to tell you this too.
Yeah, let's hear it.
He signed a contract. He renewed his these guys, man. He renewed his contract. When did he renew his contract? Before the Nate fight? Before the Nate fight. So he's stuck in a contract with money that says what it says.
Yeah, instead of wanting more, and it's probably not what the contract says.
And those fights are 10. Those contracts are 10 fights, 7 fights, 10 fights. So now you beat Nate, or you get that win, and now you go into a title fight. Well, you're still gonna get paid the same amount. Nothing's gonna change. You see what I'm saying? And now you got this big fight coming up. Instead, if he just was able to, so a lot of breaking news.
He signed a new contract. It was the head of the Usman fight, because if you remember, Usman was supposed to fight Gilbert Burns, tested positive for COVID. Then Masvidal came in at the last minute. It was kind of a good scenario for Jorge because he could always say, "Oh well, I lost because I fought on short notice." Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was kind of good negotiating. Speaking of which, as we are wrapping up the show here, we do have the pay-per-view this weekend, 258, Usman and Burns. I'll be honest, I like the main event, and it's actually been trending well from what I've been seeing, but the overall card, not much of a pay-per-view. I mean, you got Macy Barber and Alexa Grasso in the co-main event. You probably, those are, Macy's coming off a loss. She hasn't fought in a year. It's a little crazy that she's co-headlining or co-main event of this card, but I wanted to get your thoughts on Usman and Burns, with Usman now training at Elevation Fight Team. Burns obviously is still at Sanford. What do you think of this fight? The fact that it's two teammates going toe-to-toe.
First of all, Lynch, who's on the co-main event? I don't even know who.
There you go.
I watch this shit for real. And maybe I know their faces. Maybe I've seen them fight before, but co-headliner, bro.
Well, co-main event, yeah.
I got to see. Well, what's the names?
Macy Barber and Alexa Grasso.
Okay. And what weight is this?
Flyweight.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go look into them for sure, but that's just okay. Well, okay.
And Macy's coming off a loss. Like I said, it's really odd that they're putting her in this spot as well. So, I'm going. By the way, I just got to mention this. I'm going Usman on Saturday. I think he wins. I think the fact that he's been in the division longer, he sets a really good pace. Forget what you want to say about his fight style. I mean, I don't agree with that. People saying he's boring. Him and Colby had a great fight. I mean, people forget about that fight. It was a great fight. I think the pace he sets is going to be too much for Burns. Even though Burns has the jiu-jitsu, the knockout power, I think Usman's going to neutralize all that and win a decision or a late finish. That's where I'm going on the main event.
I don't think it's so much that they think his fights are boring. I think it's more so that they think he is boring as a total entity. That I don't think they're, because it's not like he's an athlete, bro. That motherfucker is just, you understand? I've known him for a while. Okay, I've known him for a while, and I knew he was going to be the world champion. I knew it the whole time before he was even ranked in top 15. I was like, because I was in Dallas, and he's from Dallas, and he's African. I'm African, and then I work with his little brother. He's big little brother. He's
little big brother. Say.
So I work with him, and so I've known these guys for a while. I have personal relationships with his family, his older brother too, and I know all of them. Mm-hmm. So I knew he was gonna be world champion. Now let me tell you something about Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns is basically was basically his sparring partner that they would bring, that would be there to just another guy he's sparring, and then as time progressed, he's gotten better. But there's a mental edge you have on a guy that you dominate like that in a gym, and they had good sport. They had good sessions. I've never been to one of their sessions together. I've never seen them together. I've seen Kamaru spar a couple guys, not that guy though. But yeah, man, I just feel like there's just a mental edge that Kamaru just has over him, and you set those perimeters when you're in the gym. Everybody knows who's the top dog, who's the second dog, who's the third dog. But like, I'll go back to Rashad and John Jones. Rashad and John Jones, we all knew Rashad was the dog, but everybody in the gym knew that John is the guy. Like, everybody knew, all the training, and when it was time to pick sides, everybody was like, so you know what, we're gonna go. The problem that happened in Florida with Usman and Burns is that, everybody had to pick sides, and the fact that, you guys were even the fact that this was even a thought, and I'm sure that there's things that go on in the back that we know nothing about that probably revolves around money, or you never know. You never really know what's really going on for a guy to leave a gym after, 7 years. His whole career basically spent in Florida at that gym. And a lot has changed in that gym. Remember, they used to be the Black Zillions, and, time is just
went to
changed.
Hard Knocks, now it's Sanford. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think he outgrew there a little bit. And at the level that he's at, he just needs personal attention more, from a trainer than what was going on there. It's a little bit smaller of a group, and I feel like he found the right trainer for himself.
Yeah, so Trevor Whitman, which is the coach, Justin Gaethje's coach. So he's working with them, and I'm very intrigued by the fight. I am. Like I said, I think Usman will take it, but Burns has been on an incredible run. It's interesting too. Both have long layoffs. Usman hasn't fought since the Masvidal fight in July. Burns hasn't fought since he beat Woodley in May of last year. So huge layoff for him. So we'll see if that plays a role in the fight. But like I said, love the main event. Rest of the card, I mean, it's, just I'll quickly mention it just because we have it up here.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me hear it.
Here's what the card is. So we've got Usman and Burns for the welterweight title. That's the main event. The co-main event, like I mentioned, Macy Barber and Grasso. After that, I actually don't mind this fight. We've got Calvin Gastelum and Ian Heinisch, which, good middleweight fight. After that, though, you got Julian Marquez and Maki Pitolo. You've got Andre Ewell and Chris Gutierrez. Like, that's a fight night. I'm sorry. That is a fight night card. You take away Usman, if, knock on wood, nothing happens on Saturday. You take the main event away, that's a fight night card easily. That's easily a fight night. And I think even that's debatable with, that Barber and Grasso would technically headline. That's a fight night card. So it's going to happen. Look, they're stacking 259. We just had the McGregor card, the last pay-per-view. So I get it, but that's a tough sell to say, hey, fork out 65 US or however much it is now to watch, just not a lot of notable names on there. So,
yeah, I mean, you make a card, you try to fill it up, and then you kind of hope that it just works well, because that seems like
I hope it does. I'm just saying that it's if you're asking fans to fork out for ESPN Plus, Fight Pass, all this other stuff, it's a big ass task for them to pay, $60 a month for a pay-per-view that's supposed to be like the last one, which it isn't, right? So I'm excited for the main event and a lot of the other fights in the card, but name value wise, you're not going to get the casuals watching this one, I don't think.
Yeah, so. Yeah, no, you won't get just regular people just coming in and logging in and checking it out, but people that are hardcore fans will watch this. So we'll see how it goes. I have Kamaru winning that fight.
So do I.
Yeah, I have him winning that fight. It could go 5 because they've done so many rounds together and they know how to do those rounds together. So I feel like they, when you've sparred with somebody and trained with somebody that much, you know how to do. Okay, you know how to fight in first round, second round, third round, fourth round. So you guys know how to make that work within each other. So psychologically, I don't know who's gonna say, man, fuck this guy first and be like, just try to fucking put him out of his misery. Or he's gonna be like, okay, I could beat this guy just doing this because I know how to do this because I've already done this with this guy so many times. So that's the dynamics of the situation. And I feel like the mental edge is Kamaru's. I think he has the mental edge over Burns.
Kev, what do you got coming up this week? Anything exciting going anywhere? Seen any fighters? Anything going on in your world for the rest of this week?
Oh, man. Jojo Diaz Jr. will be defending his title on Saturday in California here. I'm in Cali right now. So he'll be defending his belt out here on DAZN, Golden Boy. So you guys should definitely tune in and watch that fight. It's going to be a big one for him. It's the first defense of his IBF title. And again, he's one of those guys that's in the mix too, right? He's in the mix. He's in that 130, 135, and that's a really hot place to be right now. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with him, going forward. After this weekend, but right now he needs to handle this weekend and get that out of the way, and then on to bigger and better things. Also, Tristan Calaruth, my young guy, who's a cruiserweight out of Dallas, Texas, has just been put on the on the Virgil Ortiz versus Maurice Hooker card.
Nice.
That'll take place
It's gonna be a big
in
fight
Dallas.
too.
And that's a big fight.
The Battle of Texas, right?
The Battle of Dallas. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's taking place in Dallas in March. I think the 15th. Taylor, what's our dates? I don't have my dates in front of me, but yeah, that's going on. The 20th, March 20th. So we got about a month and a half before that fight. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's it's going to be a big jump up for him too. I think we're going to 6 rounders now. Yeah, man, Nate's in training camp. So, he told you guys April, May, so you guys know what time it is. So that guy doesn't say things just to say things. So, he's been, and I told you, we were doing 3 days last week, and he's been training the whole time. So it's whatever it's going to be. Yeah, man. So we got that, JoJo fighting this weekend, Tristan. What else am I? Oh, Mo Usman,
PFL heavyweight.
PFL, yes. So the $1 million heavyweight Grand Prix tournament that PFL has finally got rescheduled, and this was supposed to happen last year. So a little side note: I was with Usman in Dallas last year in March when COVID first hit and this news hit, and he was just really sad because he was really looking forward to this, And last year was supposed to be the year that we were gonna go from PFL to UFC. We kind of structured these plans as a group and as a team together, and he was really bummed out about that. So I spent about 2-3 weeks, like a month with him actually, a month straight in Dallas with him, trained a lot, and we're just we were talking about this moment. So for this moment to arrive, and also he's in another thing, side note. I know you interviewed him before, right?
Oh, I know Mo very well. We go way back. I think I might have interviewed him after his 3rd or 4th pro fight or something. Back when he was fighting in California, I think it was.
He's in Denver right now with his brother.
I know, with Curtis Blades. We actually interviewed Blades here on the channel, and that was one of the things we talked about. So.
What did he say? Did he think he was good or what? What did he say?
Yeah, no, Blades loves it because he's looking for bigger bodies in there. They have Overeem and they have a few other heavyweights, but to get to work with Mo has been very rewarding. I know, just talking to a lot of the guys there. I talked to Magny, he's training with Usman. A lot of them are just sort of feeding off each other. It's been a good fit from what I hear. Yeah,
so the PFL tournament is on. The dates are announced. Taylor, pop the dates up real quick. PFL tournament will start in,
starting in the spring, I think, for sure. Yeah, we'll be keeping tabs on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think they've announced the official date.
Oh, no, they did. I just posted it, dude. Look.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, there you go. April 23rd.
There you go.
Season returns April 23rd. So April 23rd, which is, again, another month, 2 months away. So, yeah, he's in that tournament, and I think that, Doom is in that tournament. The guy who won it last year, Ali, he's in that tournament. Yeah, man, I'm really, 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 really looking forward to this, man. I'm on ESPN Plus, ESPN 2. So, guys, just mark that on your calendar. Muhammad Usman, Kamaru Usman's little brother, and next heavyweight champion of the world, in my opinion. And you can take that to the bank.
Yeah, we'll get some stuff with Mo for sure. I'll definitely be interviewing him before his fight. For me, at Lynch on Sports, we got a Leon Edwards interview, guys. You want to check that out here on the channel. He's fighting Khamzat Chimaev, the hottest name in MMA right now, one of the hottest names. So yeah, got to tune in for that one. We'll be giving you guys some more big interviews coming up here in the next little bit. For me, for Kev, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you soon, and enjoy the fights this weekend.